Hello, you're listening to the HatchetJob.com gaming netcast with another impromptu show for you today. One which I don't think we'll edit this very much, chaps. I think we'll just kind of go with the flow. And I'm joined in no order. Is that what film credits say? The film credits say in no particular order.
Usually it's in order of appearance or something, isn't it?
It's alphabetical.
Or alphabetical, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
no, I think you should do it in order of appearance, though.
Well, why not just do... I read an interesting report the other day. Sorry, I'll talk about this interesting report after we introduce everyone. So, we have Lupus Umbris.
Yo.
Hello!
Starts.
Hey,
Morning.
I was here before him. I thought we were doing it in order of appearance.
No. We'll get on to that in a second. So we have Starts.
Morning.
And Simplicitly.
Hello.
Now, I was reading an article the other day, or just a headline of an article, that suggested that in companies, promoting people randomly can have as good an effect on the bottom line or on company success as actually promoting them according to their performance, which I think is quite interesting.
It seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Right? It's the old, it's the Greek method of democracy. You should randomly elect your leaders.
Yeah, and of course... Mr. Moon, who died recently, Sung Young Moon, was that his name? The Moony Man?
Yeah, the Mooney, yeah.
You know what
Country in Morning.
Yes. Who
He randomly married people.
Yeah, he did. He used to pick them. But do you know what a Moony is? Sim, you know what a Moony is in UK slang, don't you?
Yes, I do. Is it the act of taking down one's trousers to show the cheeks of one's buttocks?
Yes. So when I said the Moon...
Wait. Why do you guys have to add extra words or extra letters at the end of a perfectly good word like moon?
Oh, well, maybe it's moon. Maybe it's moon. But when I said the Moony Man, I just imagined him on stage in front of thousands of grooms and brides just pulling down his trousers and letting sunshine into the room, which I think is... which is a great image.
You know, I had a counter with the Moonies when I was living here.
Because you're in Korea, right? You're in South Korea.
Yeah, in Korea, in South Korea, right? They came to my door and they knocked at about 8 o'clock at night.
And now you're married.
And now I'm married, yeah. So I cannot get... Ryu! Kaza!
Sorry?
Fucking wife. No, she's killing me. The Korean woman they gave me doesn't speak a lot of English, so I have to scream at her from time to time. Anyways.
Sorry, yeah.
No. So they came in at about 8 o'clock at night, and I thought they were working for the school because I live on campus. Because who else knocks on a door at 8 o'clock at night? So I thought they were there to like clean up or whatever, like to do the thing where they squirt for bugs. And so I invited them in, and then we had this 10-minute discussion about the woman. So I guess God is a woman and some other things, but I eventually shuffled them out the door. Yeah.
Do you think that ever happens in America where people that are new immigrants, just Jehovah's Witnesses, turn up and they think they're from immigration or something, so they just kind of let them in?
I don't know. Normally in the U.S., if somebody knocks, like when the census people knock, they specifically say, "I'm not from a church and I'm not here to try and sell you something." Because otherwise, like when the guy said that, I already had the door halfway shut.
Right.
But here, it's just so rare. Nobody really does that I assumed that, okay, come in and clean. Yeah, that's fine.
And so were they surprised at the fact that somebody was letting them in?
I think they were. I don't think they knew quite what to do. I think they were sort of prepared for me to slam the door in their face. And then they had some literature. And for some reason, the only people that speak English decided to become really religious and go door to door. Or people will walk up to me when I'm walking in the street, and they're invariably religious. Anyways, yeah, so I had my experience with them. And now I've got a Korean wife. She's not bad looking. Leaves on Sunday, which is nice. It keeps it quiet.
Yeah. Did she come with the bug spray as kind of double...
Yeah, that would be a great package deal. I might take that.
But talking about Korea, Lupus, you've been playing Dust.
Fantastic little game. It's an Xbox Live arcade game, downloadable. Came out last month, I believe. It's just this beautiful hand-drawn Metroid Castlevania thing. It really combines a lot of elements together in this little downloadable title that I'm like nerdgasming here. It's it just has beautiful artwork. It's fairly well written, good voice acting, and it's pretty much all done by one dude.
It was largely developed as an indie title, wasn't it?
It's an indie title, but it won Microsoft, what was it, Dream Build Play?
Right.
I believe a few years back. The action is really fluid and dynamic, and we were talking earlier about how it looks. It's kind of almost can look like a bullet hell game, except for you're the one sort of casting the fireworks and the bullets all over the screen.
We better explain that it's 2D, isn't it? So it's side scrolling. I've played the demo. The demo's free to download, of course, and it is remarkable that when you do play it, even if you don't like the art style, which is kind of anime / anthropomorphic animals, there's an immediate respect for it because you do realize that yes, one man did this.
Yeah, I would compare it more to Disney than anything else. Although some of the eyes are very, deviant art anime-ish, so it's very fluid, very beautiful.
Yeah,
the character designs are the only thing that stand out as being anything sort of off kilter. But other than that, the voice acting is great. The little sidekick that you get that would normally just be annoying is fairly well written and voice acted and entertaining. I've generally laughed at half the thing that comes out of her mouth.
That's Fidget, right?
Yeah, Fidget, the little flying Nimbat.
Yeah, I played the demo as well. I mean, it's one of those games that's ended up on my list of things that I'm definitely going to download and play. But I kind of went through a phase of just kind of buying these things and then having them stack up.
Yeah.
And I'm being a bit more disciplined about it and waiting till I finish some of the other ones.
So, I mean, when I played it, Lupus, and if we can backtrack slightly, so it's a 2D platformer where you have a sword and you can chain attacks together using combinations of button presses.
Right.
And you can leap up and down and dash through the air, which for fighting game players is quite like Blaze Blue, I guess, to avoid people. Now, you said that you can combine your main character's attacks with your sidekick's attacks to fill up the screen with projectiles. So why don't you just kind of describe how that works and how it affects the game kind of mechanically and in terms of tactics?
Right. So you have your main character, Dust. He has the sword, which talks, which is fun. So you have his sword and you have Fidget's, the little sidekick, magic. And then when you combine them by Dust spinning his sword, it kind of sucks in the projectiles, the magic fireballs or whatever your character's spitting out, and then amplifies them and then throws them out onto the screen. Can get overwhelming at times because you can just completely fill the screen with stuff going on at times. So I've lost my character a couple times.
So does that make it really effective if you're kind of filling the screen with bullets, basically?
It can, because a big part of the combat is sort of juggling the enemies and being able and throwing everybody into the air. There's a number of different launchers, or you can spin your sword in midair, which will get you more air. And so there's times where if you're doing it right, you are in the air a good percentage of the time, just flying around, comboing dudes in the air, relaunching them, spitting out more projectiles, which feeds into the combo counter, which is another fun thing with the combat.
So do you play these games a lot, this style of game, Lupus?
Not really.
Okay, because I was looking at the video, and it seemed very, busy, I guess. And so when I play these games and they look like the bullet hell games, I can't really do.
Yeah.
Because I just end up in hell almost immediately. But so, okay, have you found it possible to form some sort of coherent strategy? Other than, like, I just press X over and over again. That's what I'll do. Unless it's approachable. So, what do you think? Is it reasonably approachable for somebody that doesn't play these all the time?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're the one dealing out the bullets and stuff, so it's not like you're having to dodge waves and waves of stuff. You're dishing out the pain instead of trying to avoid it. And it's very match friendly. So that's, usually,
I'll just sit on the controller and spin in circles. Then.
Yeah, you just alternate between flying, like doing the flying spin, and having your sidekick spit out projectiles. And so you can just alternate between the two and just stay airborne forever, and just killing lots of dudes.
Is there a bunch of other combos in there that you just don't use because that one's so effective? I mean, is there kind of a bit of depth to the stuff you unlock?
It's kind of contextual, situational. You do unlock a few different combos with your sword, depending on if you want to launch dudes in the air or slam them to the ground. And it kind of depends on what you want to do in order to keep your combo going. because while you're in combat, you have this combo meter for each hit you get that feeds into how much XP bonus you get for any particular engagement. So you want to maximize the number of hits you get for your combo, which maximizes the amount of XP you're getting for the engagement, all while avoiding getting hit yourself, which resets the combo. Yep. Even when you get to the point where you're going through engagements that you might be overpowered or whatever, you're not just trying to eliminate the enemies, you're trying to see how, like, can you how big of a combo can you get off these guys?
Is there any multiplication of the combo meter based on your proximity to the enemy? In a 2D playfield, it seems to me that maybe there's some kind of bonus, and I think Bang.io does this, which is that your attacks become more powerful the closer the enemy is to you. Is there anything like that in Dust?
No, there's nothing like that in Dust, although the risk-reward mechanic is mainly how long you can keep the enemy alive so that you can build up your combo meter without taking any hits, which will completely reset whatever combo you've built up.
And so when you say keep the enemy alive, are you talking about the enemy as in kind of just a gestalt entity on the screen? or do you mean as in you can see the health status of an individual enemy?
I can't recall if there's any health bars. Yeah, I can't. Usually I'm just mashing the hell out of whatever's in front of me. So I don't recall if there's any health meters. There might not be.
Okay.
But
so it's essentially that each section is people come in and it becomes, although you're traversing horizontally, in that moment it then becomes a room in which you have a set amount of enemies and you need to kind of bounce between them to keep the combo going.
Right. Yeah. So you'll be flying through and hit this wave. They kind of come in waves.
Yeah.
So you'll hit this wave of enemies and you'll be marching through it, but you might want to try to move past them so you can find the next group, but still be having your projectiles hitting dudes so you can keep the combo meter from cashing out.
It is fair to say to people that you are a fighting game player of some proficiency, or at least you're very experienced in fighting games.
Experienced, not proficient.
Yeah. So there's kind of a natural fit for you there. You think it would be okay for button mashers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not particularly deep. There are some subtleties you can pick up in trying to make sure that you're not so powerful that you're killing dudes too fast, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
There's actually, if you really want to go for a huge combo, I think there's an achievement for getting 1,000 hit combo.
Right.
And there's a couple pieces of equipment that reduce your attack power.
Okay.
Intentionally, so you can try to string it out longer, but
that's kind of the most interesting thing that you said, where you have there's a benefit to hobbling your character.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite cool. Do you think that this would be playable using an arcade stick?
I think so. You only really use the left stick on the controller, and I could see you mapping the other buttons to the various buttons on the stick and that working out. Yeah, I don't know. I might give that a try to see how it works.
Okay, so I noticed that in the title there are Korean characters. Is it just in the title? I mean, is there any sort of
Yeah, I don't know why. I noticed those there, and I don't know why they're there. I don't know.
I mean, they mean dust. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just a translation to dust. But I don't.
Offhand,
I thought maybe there might be like. I mean, is it set in Southeast Asia or East Asia? Is it?
No, it's kind of like Fantasyland, where all the regular people are rabbits.
I mean,
Is it
I've
like
seen
that in Korea.
Not to my. I don't think so. I mean, maybe in different parts. North Korea, maybe. I think they turned everything to rabbits because that way they can subsist entirely upon grass. They don't have to grow rice.
The Democratic Pets Republic of Korea.
That'll be great during unification. Now your brother's a rabbit.
Yeah. What would? Sorry, that'd be. I was going to say what animal would a dictator be, but that would be weird. And also, we already know that, for example, countries have animal associations. Like Russia is the bear, for example. America is the eagle.
Korea is the giant rabbit.
Yeah. China is the dragon. You have the Celtic tiger.
Okay, so what is England then?
British Bulldog.
Oh, really?
Or we could be
It's not-
the English. Well, English would be the Lions.
Yeah.
South African Springboks.
What is
That's
that?
just rugby team. That's just the yeah.
No, but South Africans are also
Is that an animal? What is that?
a Springbok is a type of deer.
Oh,
It is a rugby team, but then you have that national association, don't you? Like Kiwis for New Zealanders. Isn't it weird?
But they're a fruit.
You have kebabs in Turkey, which I think they only have free range kebabs. They just roam the mountainside.
This is just how white people view the rest of the world. This is
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah. If you could pick an animal, Lupus, for Dust, what animal would it be and why?
there's rabbits all over the place. I'm not sure what else to pick
Okay.
because all the characters are rabbits of some sort, or at least seem to be. There might be other animals, but I don't recall because that even you run into some sort of animals underground and they speak in like a southern hickish accent.
Right.
of course.
But I think maybe there's still rabbits. Oh, I'd have to go back and check.
I just have this wonderful image of this, kind of multi-faceted developer, designer, coder, artist whose one weakness is he can only draw rabbits. Every other animal comes out looking like a melted teapot or something. They just fucking rabbits again.
Well, it's like the rabbits, and then there's moonbloods, which are like these alien-looking dudes you're trying to save from genocide, pretty much. The game's kind of dark thematically.
Okay.
Despite the presence of rabbits.
Yeah, despite it looking all cheery and stuff, you're like dealing with the genocide of this other race and stuff.
This is getting increasingly weird, but fuck it, let's leave it in. I think that the assumption that rabbits aren't suitable for serious drama is
But they are suitable for genocide.
put to bed by Watership Down, of course. Which is perfect allegory, and then talking about animals, we have
I'm googling it right now.
yeah
I think I read it. It's a book, right?
Yes.
book and a film about rabbits, and
Yeah, the film will make
You
you
there?
cry.
the film will make you cry. And of course, then we have Animal Farm, and then we have Lord of the Flies, which is about a fly colony, and that's yeah.
Yeah, near enough.
Yes. I think I'd like to see the Lord of the Flies crossed with the Fly. We have an island full of Jeff Goldblums fighting for supremacy. Oh dear. And breathe. And so starts.
Yes.
From Korea to Korea. You are going to tell us about the experience of going to shop in Korea and buying video games.
Right. So, okay, just to give some backstory, I think the last time I was on the show was September or so? No, and so I mentioned before that because I was in Korea, Xbox Live wasn't really... All right, multiplayer gaming had sort of gone away, in part because of the lag, in part because of the time difference. And you asked the question, do you think you'll continue to play gaming? And I said, I don't know. And the answer is no, I didn't really play much because there wasn't anybody online when I got on, so I stopped shutting it off. So eventually, I decided I was going to start playing again. I had some free time. And so I wanted to buy some games. I emailed you. You sent me some recommendations for some older stuff. Now, I didn't even turn on the Xbox. When I turned it on, I was so baffled by what had happened to the live interface. I couldn't even find where my live arcade games were for a good 5 minutes. But anyways, so I was going to buy some games. And like in Korea, just like in the US or in England, there's no real reason to go to a game shop. If you want to get something new, right? You just have it. You buy it online and you have it mailed to you. And in Korea, particularly, if you buy something online, it'll be there the same day.
So can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
Brand new idea, right? Jehovah's Witness / Mormon delivery men. So you have to open the door.
Ah, yeah. I mean, and that way they could finance the trips, right? So you might as well just, like, there would be DHL and FedEx, and then there would be the Jehovah's. And they're going to be about half price, but they're going to they're going to hawk something else when they get. That's a great idea.
There you go.
Yeah.
But sorry, carry on with your story. I forgot what you were saying. So you didn't have to have stuff. Yeah.
You don't have to go, but I wanted to go because I was in Seoul. And I wanted to buy some older games, which, I looked online and they were kind of pricey. There's not really a place to buy used games online. So anyway, so I go to Yongsan. And for those people that don't know, Yongsan is the largest electronics district in the world. So you're familiar with Akihabara in Japan? Okay, so it's bigger than Akihabara. So I went online and I found out where the games district was. And so I went there. And so in Korea, when you walk into a department store, everyone's is respectful. There's a lot of people working, but everyone just sort of gives you the head nod and they leave you alone. And they're kind of afraid to speak English anyways. So, but when you walk into Yongsan, everyone starts hawking shit at you immediately. And so everyone's trying out their little bit of English, and then they're like, just shouting out game names that they think I'm going to want to buy. So for example, they had Madden, right? And Madden is for Westerners. And so they're Madden, he doesn't speak that much. So I walk through and I look around a bit. And as I'm walking around, one of the things I realized, and I knew this before, but I didn't realize how prevalent it was, is that you can go here and you can get all the illegal shit that you would have to find an underground guy in the U.S. just over the table. All the mod chips, all the, pirated crap that you're not supposed to be able to buy is just freely available. So I'm walking and I see like a mom and her son. And this guy has loaded, I'd never even seen this before. This guy has loaded a ROM loader on there. And so he's got this hacked Wii he's explaining how to use. And it's not even in Korean. It's like this mix of Chinese and English, because I guess there's not a Korean supplier for this sort of thing. And so I stopped and I started to look at this. And as soon as I stop in front of this guy explaining it, he pauses for a second and starts stacking up games for me to buy. And this happened every time I stopped anywhere. People would just start stacking up games to buy. So anyways, so eventually I find a guy that has some recent games, and he's got Arkham Asylum and Syndicate, both of which it had recognized. And so anyway, so I'm looking through this, and I'm looking online to see that if I can actually run it on the Xbox. So the Xbox isn't very region locked, unlike the Wii. So you can just usually buy a Korean game and it'll work, but you have to check beforehand. So I'm doing this. And as he's doing this, he just starts asking me all these questions about illegal crap. Do you want to have your Xbox modded? In his sort of broken English Konglish. And he starts stacking up games in front of me, in addition to the ones that I wanted to purchase. And so, it was like, when you think of Blade Runner and you think of the sort of electronic light district, people hawking crap at you type vibe. The fusion of a traditional market and. Right, that's kind of the feel you get from going to a place like this, and it's got sort of a seedy underbelly feel to it, which kind of makes it fun. It's a seedy underbelly in both because they've got illegal things, and in part because they have games that shouldn't exist anywhere on store shelves. Stacks of Super Nintendo games from Japan. Okay, so Japan.
Did you manage to get away without buying like a huge stack of extra games? Seeing as
I did. I had to be much more forceful than I've ever had to be in Korea.
Okay.
I had to be. It's
not
very
physically.
Not physically. I punched the guy a couple times, and this is actually why I'm interested in Dust. Is I like walking left to right and punching people. No, so I had to be much more forceful. But so in Korea, just to give you an idea of sort of the bohemian nature of the wares. Japanese cultural imports were banned up until like 1998 or 9. So they never had Nintendos.
Yeah, but I think you should give some context for that.
The context is Japan ran the country of Korea from about 1895 until the second atomic bomb being dropped. And so there's sort of a sore point because they did some things that were, everybody that was Japan is maybe like Britain to India.
Yes, but we weren't as,
Yeah, but they were they were much worse, I think, than you guys were in India. I mean, they had the sex slaves during the war and forced conscription and all this stuff. And so there's definitely a sore point. I have one language partner, and because Korea and Japanese as languages are very similar, I asked if she spoke Japanese, to which she became very upset and said she'll never go to Japan. She never buys anything from Japan, and she hates the Japanese, etc. All right, so there's a sore point there.
You have no language partners.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
It was an awkward moment, equally diffused by also hating the Japanese for no good reason. No, but anyways, they do have stacks of old Nintendo stuff that they must have either gotten after the tariff was lifted or it was probably more likely illegally imported. But like old Super Nintendo games, old Nintendo games, old N64 games. I mean, it was like it's the kind of thing where you wonder why you even have it out. Who the hell is going to buy Super Mario 64 in Japanese for the original Nintendo 64?
Yeah.
But so anyway, so I went and I finally got the games, and the first price he gives me is of course shit. It's about 20% over what you'd get online. And so there's this bit where we have to haggle back and forth. And I don't know if you've ever read much Heinlein, but in one of Heinlein's books, he gives the advice that if you just show somebody cash, it's hard for them to say no to an offer. And so this is what I did. I took out my wallet, and I counted up exactly how much money I was willing to pay, which was about 60,000 Korean won, so it's about $60. And I put it in front of him, and he sort of stares at it for a bit, and he takes it, and I walk away and go. But yeah, it was different than you would expect in a normal shop, and it was definitely. I mean, I don't get to go to traditional markets and haggle much, so this is as good as it's going to get for me. But anyways, if you want to buy something illegal, this is the place to go. This is where you can go and get all the stuff you read about online, and have somebody do it for you. So
all in one place.
Yeah, all in one place. All the mod chips, all the pirated games, all the 1990s era cartridges you want.
So, do you know if it's tolerated or if it's legal?
It's like a lot of things in Korea. It's tolerated. So Korea is actually, I guess, famous for piracy. And so when they brought the Wii out, Nintendo was. Like they went through a lot of trouble to up the anti-piracy measures. And so I guess every version of a Korean Wii will change to break the old mod chips.
Okay.
To try and keep people on their toes. So it's not even that a region lock issue between Korean Wiis and US Wiis. There's actually a piracy difference. They're designed differently intentionally to try and thwart that kind of stuff. Which makes sense. I mean, it's such a small country that in the U.S. I had a modded Xbox, but that's hard to get because you have to know a guy. And the only reason I knew a guy was because at the time I was on a tech campus, and so there's like a bunch of guys with lots of free time and technical skills that are willing to do this for the cheap. But I'm not sure where I would even get this done in the U.S. now. I mean, where would you get this done in the U.K.? Is there a place to go?
You'd have to ask on forums, and then you'd either find a website that dealt in the bits, or you could be recommended on kind of where to buy them.
This guy will do it for you, right?
There's no huge shopping centre where you turn up, certainly. You'd either have to know someone who's already got it done, but there's certainly nothing comparable to what you've just described.
Yeah.
So, yeah. In the U.S., I mean, Lupus, I forget what part of the U.S. you're from.
Midwest Ohio.
Yeah, okay. So, you'd be lucky to find a computer shop.
Yeah, just some old bits wedged down in between tractor parts, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Sim, you have been playing Crysis. So this is the original PC game, but you've been playing the 360 version.
I have been playing the 360 version, having abandoned PC gaming long before I was ever going to have a machine capable of running Crysis. It was pleasing to me to be able to play it. And I've been really enjoying it. And I'm glad I've had a chance to play through the story. And I got a great sense of choice in what you could do in the approach to all the various different missions. And that's not just because it goes from stealth mode to maximum armor mode and back to strength mode. There's a real degree of freedom in the way that you can plot your course through the levels.
I played the first one's demo, but I couldn't run it on my machine at the time. I thought maybe it was a bit dated by now, is it not?
This is something that I think Sim and me disagree on. So, Sim, you like it because it's open world and allows you freedom to move between things.
Open world perhaps is a little bit generous, but it covers a great deal of ground space in most of its levels. Certainly, early on, you're although you have objectives which you need to get to, and in a sense that funnels you towards, actually getting to specific places. There's a great breadth of landscape, and there's almost like planes, trains, and automobiles. No, there's certainly boats you can take in the water, or you can swim, or you can run using your amazing suit speed, or you can commandeer vehicles, and you can go, loud and guns blazing, or stealthed up and sneaking and all that kind of thing. And I thought that lent a great deal of variety to the 2 playthroughs that I'd put into it.
What I felt about the game sim, and I think Starts has it feels like a retro game, and I'm really surprised that you played it twice, and I'm also surprised that you felt you had a sense of freedom. It's not an open world game. Essentially what it is, it's a series of large areas that are connected by corridors, so they don't look like corridors, but they are.
So it's Far Cry.
Is Far Cry broken up in narrative chunks into smaller areas of an entire world?
Yeah, let's see, what is Far Cry is basically, as I recall, you would come out of a cave or some sort of tunnel that connected parts of these islands.
Okay.
And then there'd be a big, I don't know, 4 or 5 football fields worth of space. And you're usually far away from the guy, so the idea is that you can sneak up and steal their Jeep or whatever after you kill them, and then run off to the other part of the island that you need to go to. So it has it's like a series of hourglasses, basically, in which you leave the tunnel and then the world opens up quickly. You do something inside this large space, and then you narrow down. You get basically a key, or it's not really what's happening, but you gain the ability to go to the next area.
That sounds very similar in its structure.
And it's the same developer, right?
It is.
Okay, so then that makes sense. All right.
I was kind of grumpy when I played it because I felt I had to play it in time for the show. So that's one aspect of my displeasure. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It is enjoyable. The graphics are really good. The sound is excellent. The shooting is sharp. So all the components work really well. But I think that we have different ideas about what freedom is. What happens in Crysis, as far as I can tell, is you say there are lots of ways to approach an objective. Almost the totality of the gameplay experience is either you go stealthy, aggressive, or a mix of the two, and you swap between being cloaked and kind of running, and then going into heavy armor with and shooting people.
Yeah.
Right. Where's the freedom in that?
In that you don't have to do one or the other, and that you can mix them up. And so my playthroughs are essentially different in that one, I kind of murdered everyone by having armor on and machine gunning them all to death, and in the other one I mostly snuck past them where possible. And I think in certainly in stealth, more modern stealth games, that's less. It's kind of happens less these days because the stealth mechanic seems to have been broken down into something which is binary, so that you are detected or you're not detected. Whereas in Crysis, you could hide in bushes and stuff.
It felt kind of simplistic, because in Crysis what you're doing is you are swapping between distinct states quickly.
Yeah.
But there is no blend between those states. There's no interaction between them. You can run and then jump a bit, but that's it.
Yeah, the jumping is particularly awful, especially in relation to the speed mode.
Yeah, so you have this kind of weird situation where they have a world that's full of objects that you can interact with. Buildings can be knocked down, right? Buildings are full of pots and pans or coffee cups or computers that you can pick up and throw, and there's no need to use them whatsoever. There's no interaction between them. And for me, that is kind of freedom in its most rudimentary sense, because at the same time, there's really nothing going on in the game world. Now, I think it's perhaps an unfair comparison, since Far Cry 2 came later and was developed by a different company. But in Far Cry 2, you can't swap between modes in the same way. But there's a constant threat of something going wrong, because it's a far more open world. You can have jeeps coming in that happen to be passing and join the firefight. That doesn't really happen in Crysis. Crysis is a distinct area.
It's all very preset.
It's all preset, and this is the most important thing in Far Cry 2, that you have fire as an element. Before you attack an area, you can set fire to the grass, and that fire will spread naturally, and that way you can get people to leave buildings, or you can use it for cover and to protect yourself. But there's always an element of something going wrong. Some aspect of the simulation that might turn on you, right? That never happens in Crysis.
Yeah, you can create kind of distractions with noise. I agree with you. There's no fire. There's no kind of elemental stuff going on. But you're free to use like the more basic tenets of stealth gameplay, like sounds, to distract people.
Well, how often did you use sound?
Probably more than you.
Okay, go on. So how would
Yeah, I'm not sure there's anything particularly groundbreaking about it. You know, I just really enjoyed the fact that it laid the tools in front of me and let me do what I wanted. But there's not this kind of continuous structure of now you're going to be in a boat, now you're going to be in a jeep, now you've got to use stealth, now you've got to use armor and big guns, now you must snipe.
I mean, you're doing good in a shooter if you have enough space to move around and come at the attack from more than one direction.
You know, if it's a retro game, then are we comparing it to more modern experiences like, you know, Corridor of Duty? And
exactly. This is, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. No, maybe that's what I'm comparing it to. You're still in a corridor, and it's much wider than the modern ones. But you weren't forced into doing as much stuff.
So your idea of play is basically being allowed to do what you want, and my idea of play is being to interact with the simulation.
So you didn't think of any of the decisions you were making were particularly interesting?
No, that's another thing. I saw this truck coming up the road, so I decided to throw the North Korean soldier at it. It landed ahead of the truck, right? And they just rode over it. So the simulation didn't even let them notice a dead guy in the road in front of them.
I guess they figured they didn't need him anymore.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it's North Korea. He has served his purpose. They noticed him. They just kept going.
Yeah. I'm a real Debbie Downer on this, aren't I?
No, okay, but I guess I'm a little surprised. Okay, so Far Cry 2 is a certain style of game. This big open world game, a lot more popular. But between that and sort of, Corridors of Duty, as Sim said, I think Crysis is... I mean, I haven't played it, but I remember the original Far Cry has probably more freedom than a lot of games that are not explicitly... You are going to have 3 or 4 friends, and they're going to give you missions from time to time, and you'll drive around a big open world. Outside of that type of game, you've basically got quarters and nothing else. It sort of fits a middle ground, because I personally don't like the Far Cry 2 style of game where you have a bunch of friends and they're going to give you missions. Because I spend a lot of time driving around, and this is why I stopped playing Far Cry 2. Is I spend a lot of time just going places, so a person will tell me what to do.
Yeah,
I prefer to just walk in mostly a straight line, and this is true. I prefer to mostly walk in a straight line and then have it sort of funnel out into, as he said, a playground, and then I'll kill some people and then I'll go to the next playground. That's what I want. A series of playgrounds.
You know, I had some fun in some of the areas. You know, deliberately putting explosive barrels in places where no one was looking, and then. You know, obviously, like you say, they should have perhaps noticed that someone had put this huge red barrel with a flame symbol on the side there. It had just appeared by magic in the 30 seconds since he'd been, walking around a rusty old train or what have you. But but you can. They do tend to gaggle up the enemies, so you could shoot one of them and have that would draw the others over, and you could explode them all.
I thought it would be a good poltergeist simulator, because you can go into a house invisible and pick up a coffee cup and throw it across the room.
The end.
Yeah, the end.
The end.
Some months ago, we did a show where we ended up discussing gender in games. Hopefully in not as po-faced a way as that sounds. And we talked about...
Is this where you said you wouldn't play as a woman because it made you uncomfortable?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was a bit more nuanced than that, but for effect, let's say that's what it is.
Okay.
And we also touched on transgender in games. Changing gender kind of fits in with games like Saints Row, where you can change your character at will and make him or her have any qualities that you wish. One of our listeners is a woman who is transgender, and so I approached her for her thoughts, and she wrote quite a long letter, which it's been a month since we did that show, but I wanted to read it now. And it's quite interesting. So she said that transgender is more an overall grouping for gender variant people. Inside that you have transvestite, genderqueer, transsexual, drag kings, and queens. As a rule of thumb, trans women are women, so use pronouns such as she, etc. If you're unsure, ask in a respectful way, and be ready to deal with people that prefer a gender-neutral pronoun. this woman prefers to play as female if given the choice in single-player games. But it's not a big thing. It's just, it's more important that the game is fun. And that when she does play multiplayer games, she plays with friends. And so the classes she chooses and so on, it's more about what is required than the gender of the class. But when she played first-person shooters with random players, she always had her voice chat off and had a gender-neutral name, so to avoid any problems. She said that she doesn't have a problem with people playing cross-gender, and she did it a bit, and she said it can be fun and educational, but she understands how it can come across as creepy. So this was my position, that men who only play as female characters, I find that slightly weird, because it's kind of a baseline which isn't necessarily to do with the game or any deep thinking. It's just that they always have to play as a female character. Ending the letter, she made an interesting point, and she says that one of the big surprises of her transition was how many of the problems she encountered were down to sexism, right? So being treated as a woman, as opposed to transphobia. And other trans women she's spoken to have had similar experiences and have started to identify as feminist very quickly. And in that show, we discussed how ridiculous women's armour was in fighting games, because it's always skimpy. And she said that conversation made her think of a website called Women Fighters, a Tumblr website called womenfighters.tumblr.com, which I think is, she says it's pictures of women in reasonable armour, which I think is a nice way of talking about things.
Reasonable armour.
Reasonable armour.
Well, who is subscribing to this, though?
Who's subscribing to Women Fighters?
No, to women. Yeah, to women in reasonable armor.
I mean, what?
I think it's lecherous men who want to appear right on.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, are there many causes for women to buy and wear armor? In the modern world?
Exactly right. So there's not really a practical aspect, and so if you're not going to get a hard on, then you might as well just look at women, doing other boring, mundane activities that are not very common. I don't know.
Are they just shopping in really dangerous places?
I have to. It's been a long time since I looked at it. I don't know if it's actual photos of women or video game women, but
okay, that would make more sense.
I'm looking at it now. It's like fantasy drawings, but they're all, well, as it says, they're in reasonable armor, like actual something that looks practical.
Put that in my RSS feed, and if somebody thinks I'm a creep, I'm cool. Just look at my RSS feed. Look, no titties.
Although I do like the idea of offices having kind of anti-discrimination classes that involve women walking about in armour, and then men saying it's appropriate for you to touch them on the faceplate or the shin guard, right? But not on the tailbone or something.
No, I think that would be for very extreme cases of sexual harassment where the woman, as being a teaching tool, is required to wear armor for her own safety. Just extremely lecherous CEOs and corporate executives that they just can't be trusted around somebody not wearing armor.
Wasn't there a story in the media recently about somebody who worked at I think maybe a game dev company where the guy said, "I'm a bit of an arse, and so I'm going to make sexist jokes."
That was Starduck guy, right?
Yeah, and if it said, "I'm a bit of an arse, you'll have to wear armor if you want to work here," and he just turns up clanking along.
Reasonable armor.
Yeah, reasonable armor.
Nothing sexy.
None of that skimpy stuff. I can't help but feel we've perhaps deviated a little here with the introduction of women in reasonable armor.
Well, it is a bit of a deviation, but then it's a deviation that's been a long time coming since I forgot to read her letter out on the last show. So,
that's probably because you're a sexist.
And so we come to the end of another show. Thank you for listening. I'm going to try to keep this ending short and sweet. If you want to find out when our next show is up or to keep up with what we're doing, follow us on Twitter. And we are HatchetJob. We're going to play out with a track called Nadeya. This is the club mix, and it's by Destinazione Altrove, which I assume is an Italian band. I'm not sure where Italy is. Presumably it's because of cutbacks, they had to get rid of letters further down the line. Eventually just be all vowels soon. I think if one country is going to be in trouble by going all vowel, it'll be Switzerland.
Nadeya, oh yeah, kabamba ya,